Hi, my name is Ben Zogby. I own ExitFrog.com. I also founded a company called HighStrike.com, which has done over $10 million in the last 5 years. Today, what I want to talk to you about is how I went from being a broke engineer, literally on the street inspecting manholes in the middle of January in Massachusetts, being completely lost and not knowing what I wanted out of life, to starting a company, growing the company to 8 figures, and eventually exiting that company 5 years later in 2023. Now, this entire journey was based on, in my opinion, one thing that I did correctly, and that was build a high value skill. A lot of people are going to tell you that in order to have a business, you need to go to business school. You need to work under someone for years and figure out how to do it from them. But for me, it really was just about building a high value skill, and that skill for me was trading. I think when I started trading, I didn't have a vision of building a whole company around it. I really just wanted the financial freedom that trading would bring me. But it came to me in a way that I wasn't expecting. And I thought I was going to try and trade forever and to just build up my trading skills and run up this big portfolio and just trade forever. But what trading ended up doing for me was unlocking the business side of things, with unlocking the skill. So once I had the skill was valuable. Now, when I was working as an engineer, I was inspecting manholes, so I couldn't very well go home and trade at the end of the day. I was very preoccupied with all the shit that was going on in my work life, literally. So the main goal with building a skill was that I didn't want to just depend on someone else for a job, like full time. Like, there's a few big problems with that. One, you can get let go at any time. Number two, it's not very scalable. And three, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. So my whole thing was I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna learn how to be the best day trader in the world, and I'm gonna day trade forever. So what I would do during my engineering job was I would spend nights and weekends doing market analysis and coming up with a trading plan. And I would try to execute that trading plan literally on site at my job, whether I was in the office or actually on site inspecting manholes. And for anybody that's traded before, you probably know how that went. It didn't go great. Trading's tough, it takes a long time to learn, and the income through trading that you may or may not attain is going to be variable. It's super dependent on market conditions, on your strategy, on the amount of time that you have in a day. And for 99% of people that end up trading, it's not a reliable, consistent source of income. I made money, don't get me wrong. I figured out a strategy that worked and it was consistent. I just couldn't apply the strategy every single day. So my thing was wait for my opportunities, trade when I could, make money when I can. So that was my life for about 18 months after I graduated college. I would go to my job and try and trade from my car or from the manhole, and I would make money some days, not other days. What I wanted to do next was I wanted to build a company around trading. So my whole thing was about scalability from that point on, and my job wasn't scalable. It was starting to feel like my trading wasn't going to be scalable. So I needed to find some other outlet of value that I could scale, right? The main thing that I had my mind oriented on was that I wanted to be doing less work and be making more money. So I started thinking of the highest leverage things that I could be doing with my skill set, my assets, my resources, everything that I had at my disposal. I was trying to conceptualize how I could use all my skills to create an automated source of income for myself. I literally remember being at a job site one time on my car in the middle of Worcester, Massachusetts, and I was freezing, and I had to literally stand there while they were grading the slope with an excavator. I had construction boots on and was just dressed for winter, but it was negative 10 degrees out, and I just remember thinking I'm not gonna do this for one more day. I couldn't feel my toes. I literally couldn't even think. I was starving. I was thinking why the hell am I being paid $150 to be here today while there are 18-year-olds out there starting online businesses that are literally sitting on their couch making 10 grand? That discrepancy is what motivated me the most. So what I decided to do was to package all the knowledge that I had about trading and all the success that I had so far in making a small amount of money and amplify that through a digital product. My thought process was, what do I possess that's valuable, or what can I make that's valuable? And how do I distribute that to the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time? So on January 1st, 2019, I moved into a new apartment. I went to the grocery store, got a week's worth of food, and I locked myself in my apartment for one whole week. And I made the best trading course that I could at the time. I dumped everything in my brain, every piece of knowledge that I had about trading, I put in a digital course. I got it up online, and in 1 week, I had produced the most valuable thing that I had ever produced in my life. Now, back in 2019, the Instagram algorithm was still good for organic growth. So my plan was to just make content for Instagram, and eventually I was like, people are gonna discover this thing, they're gonna see how great it is, and they're gonna buy it. So I made the decision that every single dollar that I made at my 9-to-5 job was gonna be used for marketing on Instagram. I'm gonna cut out all the unnecessary expenses, and every dollar that I could be spending on the marketing I would be spending. So what I did was I would just buy shout outs from these huge Instagram pages with my target audience. And the formula was simple. It was get the people to your page, convert them with the content that I was making, and then hopefully they purchase the course that I had made. I went on doing this for months and months, and this marketing became like a money pit because I was spending money on marketing, spending money on shout outs from these big pages, and nobody was buying the course that I had. Even though I knew it was great and I knew that if someone had taken the course, they would be a better trader and they would get their trading skills where they needed to be, people simply weren't buying it, and the ROI was like zero for the longest time. So that's when I learned my second high income skill, which is marketing. I figured out that in order to have a product that sells and in order to make money online, you need both sides of the equation. You can't just have a good product, you can't just have good marketing. So once I figured out that equation, all of my effort was spent on learning how to market. I invested in marketing training like crazy, and it was actually probably to a concerning level, the amount of money I spent on like learning how to market. I think I spent my last 15 grand on like a webinar training class. So I literally had like $500 in the bank. So I had a $65,000 a year engineering salary, and I had $500 in the bank because every single dollar that I made in the engineering job, I would just funnel into nothingness of the business. Like, it was so stupid looking back, like the amount of money I spent on stuff that like didn't even move the needle. It was so dumb. But I still consider that money some of the best money I've ever spent because as I was doing it, I was figuring out what didn't work. So if I spent $100 on a certain type of content, that content didn't perform and it didn't make me any money back, it's not like I wasted the $100. I just spent $100 to figure out that that wasn't a viable way to grow my business. So I'm constantly juggling these two ideas in my head, like going back and forth, waking up one day thinking like, just keep pushing, just keep investing in growth, you'll get there eventually. And then waking up the next day and like telling myself like, dude, you got rent due in 2 days and you're not gonna be able to cover it. And I think a lot of people go through this back and forth in their head, and they don't know whether they should actually be investing in the growth or saving the money. My advice to you is spend the money. So after I spent the 15 grand on that webinar course, I started making really good webinar content and I started making some sales. And I'm telling you, if you haven't made $1 yet in your online business, the first dollar that you make is gonna be the most special. It's gonna make you feel the best. Even after bringing in over $10 million through the business, I still think the first week where I made like 3 sales, like boom, 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 one after another, was like the most magical feeling of my life. And in that week where I had made 3 sales, I only made like $1,500. But in that week, I learned 2 ridiculously critical lessons. And number one was that you're one video away, you're one email away, you're one piece of copywriting away, you're one Instagram story away, you're one post away from breaking through at any given time. And number 2 is that you only have to be right once. I was wrong probably 500 times before I was right once. But when you're right once, you double down on that vision going forward, and then you're right from then on. It's the same thing with wrestling. I was an NCAA college wrestler, and wrestling is going to kick your ass 10 times before it makes you feel good once. But when it makes you feel good that one time, everything else becomes worth it. From all the hard work and practice that you put in throughout the year until the end, until it finally becomes worth it, all of that just becomes worth it. So after I quote unquote cracked the formula for making sales, I just doubled down on this and I made more content and I did the content in the way that I learned. And so I went from making $1,500 in my first week to probably 3 grand in my second week. That first month I made 7 grand. The next month I made 40. So after I made 40 grand, I started thinking about how I can kind of systemize this and do it a little bit more efficiently. So what I really wanted to do at that point was to hire a content guy full time. I applied the exact same investing principle in the content guy that I did the whole time with learning how to grow, in that I was like, I don't know if this is gonna pay off, but I'm still gonna invest in growth. I'm gonna keep investing in growth until something goes right. So I brought in this full-time content guy and we started making videos, and those videos just took off and the marketing was amazing. And the results that the product was getting for people were amazing, and it just created this continuous cycle, this continuous loop of, we made great marketing videos, so we got more and more people on the product, and the product helped more and more people, so we got more and more testimonials out, so we used those testimonials for marketing. It just created this freaking awesome cycle of sales, and by November 2020, we did $293,000 in sales in 1 month. So in November 2019, 11 months after I had made that initial course, and probably 6 months of getting no sales, November was the first month where I cracked 5 figures. Now, for me, what I wanted to see before I was able to quit my job was sustainable income. So September, October, November of 2019, I think we did 4 grand, 7 grand, then 11 grand. And that progression showed me that, okay, we are actually scaling this thing. This is actually sustainable. And I went ahead and quit my job. Now I've paid millions of dollars in payroll. I've invested six figures in single courses. I've done some crazy, scary stuff growing my business. And to this day, that phone conversation where I quit my job was the most gut-wrenching decision that I had made in my entire life. And I think the reason for that is that the stigma that I should be working this job, I feel like I was going against that stigma. I was going against what society and the world had planned for me and wanted me to do. And it was pretty daunting because in the corporate world, you're together, but when you leave the corporate world, you're now alone. So I effectively went from having this $65,000 income that was just gonna be given to me every day, no matter what I did, to 100% variable income. I was 100% responsible for it. And I think internally, that was the shift that was most daunting for me, is that now, at this point, I am 100% responsible for my success or my failure. I cannot blame anyone. I cannot ask for a raise. I have to create the raise. This mindset shift was super uncomfortable at first, but I knew it was something that I needed to have in my life in order to implement that level of growth. So the mentality that I had with quitting the job was obviously I didn't want to do the job forever, but more importantly, the job was becoming my side hustle, and I was making 3 times as much money on the other stuff than I was at the actual job. So now that the job was in the way of my actual business, I quit the job and I went in full time. And within 1 year of quitting my job, in November 2020, we did $293,000 in 1 month at 95% profit margin. And we had the thing dialed, just locked in on autopilot. All we had to do was make content, we would make sales. And I was spending my full week making video content for this business. So my monkey brain immediately started thinking of what's the next level we need to go to scale this. So I myself was a pretty good trader. I had really good months trading and I had some decent months trading. But there were definitely better traders out there. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to systemize the business so I could fully work myself out of the business and position it for sale. My goal was to grow the company as big as I can, to systemize it, and to eventually have a big payday and sell the company. So we transitioned to a recurring revenue model, which was instead of just having people pay one time for the course, we provided a suite of products that provided all sorts of value to self-directed traders, and we hired really good traders for our staff to run those products. So over the course of the next couple of years, I worked myself out of the business continually, step by step, and started implementing others into the business, coaching them on what to do, training them, paying them good salaries, and eventually by 2022, we had a full staff of traders, of support people, and the business virtually ran itself. So once the business was systemized, I had all my time back and I could use that time to start other businesses or do whatever. And I went through a period of my life where I was just letting the business run itself and I was providing input when I needed to and just enjoying the time that I had earned back for myself. So November 2020, when I said we made $293,000 in 1 month, that was one of our biggest months. We had a couple other huge months in the following couple of years, but eventually it became time to move on to other things. Now this business was fully systemized, fully automated. I was pretty much virtually hands-off for about 2 years. So throughout 2021 and 2022, the business was at its peak. And as you probably know, with success comes different struggles, and you're gonna have to overcome different struggles within a business as you scale it. Now those struggles are different when you're making $3 grand a month than they are when you're making 300 grand a month. So that being said, and I'm not gonna get into it in this video, that's a whole separate video, the decision was made, and it was a very careful decision that I made to start looking for an exit, to start looking to sell the company. So around mid-2022, I started positioning the business to get acquired. So at this time, the direction of the company shifted. It was time to take the company to new levels, and I really feel like I took the business as far as I could with my skill set and with my knowledge. So I partnered with a private equity company that agreed to kind of take the business with the goal of scaling it to $10 million a year. So this transition process took me from the end of 2022 to mid-2023, and finally, we closed the deal, we signed all the paperwork, we signed the purchase and sale agreement and all the ancillary documents that took months to negotiate, and we finally landed on this deal where I sold the company to the private equity buyers. And now I'm a consultant for the firm. I spend about 5 hours a week kind of pointing them in the right direction on how they can grow the brand, how they scale the brand, because at the end of the day, I know this business better than anyone. They're just here to really scale it and put their resources into it. But at the end of the day, it was my blood, sweat, and tears that actually built the foundation for this business. So the trading company was awesome, right? Just the success that we were able to have financially from the company, doing over $10 million, to the lives that we were able to impact. We helped over 10,000 traders from 142 countries in their trading journey. That's so meaningful to me, and starting out, I would have never thought that was even possible. That's all great, but at the end of the day, what I really am passionate about is helping people through this entrepreneurship process and helping people who are struggling, helping people who are lost and they don't know what they're gonna do next and they don't know where they go. They don't know what they want out of life. To this day, those are some of the biggest struggles that I've ever had and the most rewarding struggles to overcome in my life. And I know how many people out there are actually going through these emotions right now. So part of the decision to sell the trading company was so that I could move on and start this new venture and help business owners and help entrepreneurs that are just starting out. The decision to sell the company was one that I took with great care, and it was the right decision. It was bittersweet. I let my baby go that I had started 5 years ago, but I get to move on. I get a nice check in my pocket for the value of the company, and I get to do what I think is my life's calling, which is to help entrepreneurs get their start and break free of things that they don't want to do. Break free from their 9-to-5s, from being a slave to the system, from doing things that they don't want to do. And that's why we're called Exit Frog. I think the word exit has kind of a dual purpose. Obviously, I exited my company. I sold the company, and that's great. I got a nice check. But the other part of exit that I think is even more important, especially for you guys, is that you can exit the stuff that you don't want to be doing. Like, it's as simple as not doing it anymore. And once you feel how it feels to exit something that you hate, to break away from something that you hate, that's the greatest feeling in the world. So the word exit has kind of two purposes there. Exit what you don't want to be doing, exit the company. And the frog part is because my wrestlers call me Coach Frogby. And I really think that being a part of their success and their journey as young men is really important to me. And I kind of view my vision of guiding these wrestlers as young men the same as I view my mission of guiding entrepreneurs towards their vision of success. So that's my story. In the past 5 years, I've grown a ridiculous amount. If you were to see me talk on camera 5 years ago, it would be literally not even the same person. Confidence, success-wise, just like happiness, it was a completely different person back then. And that's my goal with Exit Frog, is to help you guys not do it in 5 years, but do it in 1 or 2, because I've learned so much along the way. And what I put in these videos is tried and true, and you guys are not guinea pigs. I'm not just like waking up one day and thinking like, oh, this would be a good idea. I've lived this. I've lived the dream, I've lived the nightmare, all the above, and I know what works and what doesn't work. And most importantly, I know the mentality that you need to have to be successful in this field. So whether you're just starting your entrepreneurship journey, or you've been trying for a long time, or maybe you're super successful already, and you're interested in growing and learning as an entrepreneur, I have a lot of value to provide and a lot to offer here. If you want free advice from someone who's really done it, I'd really recommend that you subscribe to my channel. You might feel like you're alone, but you're not alone. And like I said in this video multiple times, one of the most important aspects of being an entrepreneur is learning as much as you can and investing in your own growth. Now, luckily, it's free to watch all of my YouTube videos. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Like the video if you got some value, and I'll hope to see you in all of my next videos.
Done. Great. I love it.